where are we off to today? Finish the tune. We've got stage one in the car already, but I'm not. My understanding is that with integrated engineering, you don't get to use all of the stage one tune until you have the DSG, the transmission tune, done. Once the transmission tune's done, I guess it unlocks the rest of stage one. So that's what we're doing today. So I'm kind of excited to see the difference. Should put me at with my cold air intake from integrated engineering. It should put me at a good shooting for 360. Fingers crossed. I know it doesn't sound like a lot with cars coming off the factory line with 500, 600, 700, but 360 at all-wheel drive with launch control, it's a good start. It's time for stuff and things to happen.
Been a long time waiting.
It has. Not as long as we did on the Volkswagen. I held off on the DSG forever on that.
Right.
So how does this work? The stage one tune only works, I only get part of it.
You're on a low torque file.
Uh-huh.
Because you didn't do your DSG file.
Right.
Just like if you had a manual car, you'd have to put an upgraded clutch to go to the higher torque.
Okay.
So there's an option for that so that you don't injure anything with the transmission or the car until you're prepared and have the full files. Because you need both files to work together. The nice thing is that if you do go to stage 2, the DSG file is only one file needed. You don't have to upgrade it in your DSG file.
Oh, that's good news.
And always put a battery charger on your car when you're tuning. Always.
Well, you're the tuner, so.
I understand.
But
People
top
home
tip.
People home do it themselves.
MALTHOUSE MOTORWORKS top tip.
Look right here. Shows you your latest tune on your car. This is your computer ECM. This is a stage 1 low torque file, 91 octane.
Right.
And that's because the transmission isn't holding the extra power. So now we're going to give the transmission tune so that it'll have its extra, it'll be able to handle the extra power.
Woohoo. And that should get us to conservatively 360?
Right about 360 crank.
360 crank is a great start. I think it's going to open this car wide up. And there we go. Stuff is happening.
So now we have the latest transmissions installed, so the tune has been added onto the ECM of the transmission. And now we're going to update this, get rid of the low torque because we now have the file for from the DSG.
Extra low torque.
Well, it's just to protect the transmission. Stage 1 high torque,
Hell yeah.
91 octane.
Yes, please. We'll take 2 of them.
So it asks you before you do this, is your car ready for this? Have you done everything you need to do? Sometimes, depending on what you're doing, stage 1, stage 2, it'll change what requirements are. Spark plugs, downpipe, intake, intercooler. If you're going to stage 2. Stage 1, normally it's just, they just want the DSG file done. So it'll protect the transmission from the higher values that you're going to get out of the car with the stage 1 file.
Sweet.
No credits required. This is not an update, or it's just an update. It's not a reprogram, so it doesn't cost you anything. This is just reflashing the car. It's just like if you wanted to change from running 91 octane to 100 octane. If you had a 100 octane file availability, that doesn't cost you any money.
This is talking about the stage 1 tune, not the DSG, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
This is for the engine side.
Now everything's going to be communicating the way it's supposed to.
You're just going to get the full value of the stage 1 file.
I'm stoked. Plus the IE intake that we did, the cold air intake. She's coming along nicely. I mean, it's already done.
It's done. That's it.
It's loaded.
It's already done. Once you've already flashed, the first flash is always, it takes the longest. After you've completed the first flash, the second time you're changing a flash, it takes moments. It's awesome how quickly, how fast they've gotten being able to do it.
Now driving the car, does the car need to cycle?
No, just turning it on and off and then starting the car. First startup sometimes can be a little different. It'll sound a little different, but after the first startup is done, it'll be fine after that because it'll relearn. Because basically you clear all the faults and all the settings from what was in there before.
Yeah.
It has to relearn, reevaluate everything it's going to find in the car. So So now we've done that, we'll turn the car off, let the car settle. Because it has to, they ask you to turn the key off in the car and cycle the key before you either retune or start the car. That just allows the computer to relax and then turn back, have everything turn back on. And then we'll turn off my
Battery charger.
battery charger.
Clearing codes. What are we doing here?
Just making sure there isn't any codes that are concerning, something that doesn't agree with it. This is a actually power loss fault that you get every time you flash your transmission.
Gotcha.
So, but you shouldn't have to. Once you flash your transmission, you shouldn't have to worry about it again. Because you shouldn't have to. The only time you're going to change your flash in the transmission if you're selling the car, because you'll never have to reflash it. You always want to have that tune in there. It just makes the transmission work better and handles all the power you're going to put out of it.
That was my next question. Now that we've done this and it's the tune and the transmission is communicating with the tune on the engine, will the gear shifts be quicker? Is that what's happening? Will the rev limiter get erased? How does
your mile an hour rev limiter will be released? Your RPM rev limiter will be increased. Your shifts will be fast and more crisp, and even coming off of the line will be less jerky because it has more pressure and it allows it to cycle through off of the stop through first and second gear much more smoothly, where from the factory it's a little more jerky.
Do we need to upgrade the mounts on the transmission, like a dog bone or anything like that? Is that something I should consider later?
If you're just normal driving the car and just have a stage 1 file, it's going to be a customer request. Anything above stage 1, I'd recommend it just because you're going to be applying a lot more torque to the engine mounts on the car. Dog bone insert and a dog bone mount is going to be your best start. I always recommend doing engine mounts, engine and transmission mounts on either side of the engine, and the dog bone underneath the pendulum mount, as they call it. I would recommend do all three as a group, but if you just want to do the base, the bottom one, that's the first thing I recommend to do if that's all you want to spend the money on.
Well, we'll put it on the list. We'll definitely add that to the list of things we need to do to make sure that everything stays put.
All gone.
All good?
All good.
Now we got the tune loaded in the car. Let's get her on the road and let's see how she does.